Hello, and welcome to the Domestic Workers Chronicles, where we talk everything domestic workers, where we talk everything our auntie, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you watched my previous episode, I speak actually a lot about the importance of making sure that you draft your expectation at the beginning of the relationship. But also what I wanted to clarify is that if you already employ a domestic worker, there is no perfect time like the present where you can literally sit with your family and draft the job spec for your domestic worker. Remember, where there's no structure, you know what, turmoil and tlhakatlhakano exists. I don't know, some wise person probably said that. I don't know who it was. But truly, if there is no structure, turmoil. So even if you already employed a domestic worker, and just like me, you've got your helper for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, our madam, it's time that you sit and draft a job spec and compile a basic condition of employment act compliant employment contract. Yeah, in simple terms, ke kontraka ya mmereko. A re no e byang straight ka re bola di terms tsa godimo thata. So re bola simple, we're an employment contract. And let me tell you how that affects your worker. Immediately after motho a berekile ko wena for 5 years or 3 years, and one day you come and say, auntie, let's sit down. Actually, you know what? I've got this job spec for you. I've got this work schedule for you. I've got this contract for you. I actually want to register you for UIF, ke nyaka gore o be le funeral cover and whatnot. Yo, guys, that person just appreciates that. Because for the first time, they start thinking like, oh, she sees me. She appreciates me. She acknowledges what I'm doing. So it's never too late to have that kind of formalities in place, right? But today's focus really is things that the do's and the don'ts within this space. Ne? And I'm going to be very open and blunt about this. I might offend other people, I might not, I don't know. But anyway, my name is Lindiwe Shibambo, the mate of all mates, the domestic of all domestics, the madam of all madams. Those who know me call me Kalashnikova Mafavuka. So let's get right into it. So, employers, as I have indicated in my previous episode, that where to go to hire, identify, hire a good domestic workers, you look for agencies that are accredited, you look for agencies that are licensed, and you are well within your rights to call the Department of Labor, well, it's now called the Department of Employment and Labor, to verify and authenticate that indeed that particular agency is licensed and is within the regulatory framework to do what they are set out to do. So it's well within your right. So you don't have to appoint one agency. You can identify 3 or more agencies, give them your spec, and challenge them and say, this is my spec, please work on this. Get me 3 ladies, 4 ladies, 6 ladies that fits this particular criteria, and I would want to interview them prior to appointing. And of course, there's an issue of cost. Do compare your costs, but never go for the cheapest one. The cheapest one does not necessarily mean the best one, because the cheapest one might mean the unlicensed one, the one that is human trafficking people, right? So, you know, licensed agencies have lots of overheads. For example, Made for You, we have, we've got, I don't know how many recruiters, salespeople, clients, HR, compliance, accounts, payment, payroll. So cheap does not necessarily mean good. Quality, you pay for quality. So as much as you're going to compare your costs, make sure that you do select the better ones and the ones that are licensed. Now, guys, I want to, and I'm not excusing or justifying wrongdoings by agencies. I've had a couple of questions on my DMs, my WhatsApps and everything, and people saying, but Lindiwe, we've used this agency, they are untruthful, they're not honest, they falsify the information, they do this and they do that. What I can tell you now for free is that any agency that falsifies the information on the CV or the profile, that is not a licensed and accredited agency, because a licensed and accredited agency gets audited by the department. So they do check these records to make sure that the records are accurate. So first of all, that is not a licensed or accredited agency that would have lied to you. We are not allowed to falsify any information, but we are allowed to bring forth the strength of the candidate that you are looking at, right? And we also give you the opportunity, of course, we give you the opportunity to look at the profiles or the CVs and to interview prior so that you can get first-hand information from that particular applicant about who they are and whatnot. And employers, madam, remember, when you set up these interviews or call these people, never say to domestic workers it's an interview. That sounds like a big word. That sounds like somebody needs to be preparing for an interview with the United Nations and speak about conglomeration and globalization and global warming. No, just say to auntie, listen, auntie, haribuwe, let's talk, arabulele, masbulabule, whatever. I just want to hear a bit about who you are, what you want. Let's just have a simple conversation. Because when you have a simple, down-to-earth kind of conversation with potentials, people are able to relax and people are able to speak their truth, right? And remember, in those kind of chats, there's no wrong or right answer. So we're not saying to you, after you've employed 4 agencies and all of them gave you 3 candidates and you've set up a date where you're going to call or WhatsApp call or Teams or Zoom these candidates and talk to them. You need to be sitting there wearing suits and ties with your family and your children in their Sunday clothes and now asking domestic worker, tell us about yourself. Obviously, guys, domestic worker ba mo file textbook or somebody who have family mo tipile. O fitla mola I'm a hard worker, I can work well under pressure, I've taken care of children. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's textbook bullshit. So you want the truth. You want to have a conversation to say, me mapuli, just keep it light, keep it simple. Just like you're talking to someone you know. And in that way, they feel your energy, they feel your presence, they're able to just say, you know what, Detroit, and I took Detroit to CCMA, and after Detroit, I worked at Northcliffe, and at Northcliffe, I took this one to CCMA, and you are able to establish, oh, this is the type of person. She's quite arrogant, she's aggressive, and whatnot, but you are allowing her to talk. And remember, when you have those chats with your candidates, let them do most of the talking, you do more of the listening. Now, not to justify anything, like I started with these conversations about agencies. There are agencies that have done wrong things, including Made for You. I think when we started, there's so many mistakes that we've done. Even now, even today, there are mistakes that we do. But at the back of those mistakes and receiving criticism, we are able to build and be better. So what I'm saying is that the domestic worker sector is not a sector that is highly supported, where you've got funding and investors and everybody jumping on that opportunity of being part of it. So most agencies, and I'm talking about agencies that are licensed and accredited, most agencies don't have the financial muscle or funding to sort of have huge infrastructures and employ huge numbers of people so they can be sitting in different departments to be dealing with certain things. I mean, we are grateful to some government sectors that have assisted us. But I can honestly say the government sectors that have assisted us, we don't even have one government sector that has literally invested in Made for You and invested in these initiatives. Most of the assistance that we got was to say, here's a voucher for 10,000, go buy marketing tools. Here's a voucher, do a website and so forth. So I'm not saying we are justifying wrong things by agencies of domestic workers, but I'm saying sometimes please forgive and excuse us. At the back of your criticisms, at the back of these mistakes that we make, we are able to build, right? But also what becomes sensitive in the same wavelength is that personally, and I think speaking for Made for You, is that we've had situations where we met horrible, and I mean horrific employers. We had a situation, and I'm going to speak to this, and I want you to hear me and hear it from where it's coming from. It's not coming from a place of bitterness, anger, hatred, but I just want you to be conscious of such things. So we had situations actually in the past years before COVID. We had an amazing client who came from Pretoria East, and this lady was driving a G-Wagon, and this lady came to our offices, and we were quite excited. You know, we had different categories of clients, and we have different categories of applicants. So this client in our world falls under the prestige client, and she was looking for a domestic worker, and she was clear about her spec and what she was looking for, and she was willing to pay the assigned rate for a prestige domestic worker. So we made sure that, you know, and she gave us a full 7 days to work on her request. So she gave us ample of time to work on it. So we set and prioritized and work on this particular request, and we assigned 6 ladies. We actually shortlisted 6 ladies. She came, she literally at the time, I mean, before COVID, we were doing face-to-face interviews. We were not big on virtual interviews like we are now. So she came and did the face-to-face interview, selected her worker. Her worker was so excited. I think at the time, the proposed salary was about 12K. And for a domestic worker, that is amazing. And the lady went, I mean, her thing was that the domestic worker must have a license and she must be computer literate and she must love children. And this was the lady who had all of that, ticked all the boxes. And the lady went and started working in Pretoria East. Before a month, the assigned domestic worker calls us and say, guys, the conditions here are not okay. And we're like, auntie, what's happening? Ah, no, it's fine. Let's see what happens. Month 2, domestic worker calls us. The working conditions are not okay. Of course, we are thinking about maybe the workload, maybe the house is too big. We're thinking along those lines, only to find that this domestic worker was sexually harassed by the husband of the beautiful lady who drives a G-Wagon, right? And we're like, what is happening? And she says to us, listen, this husband of this madam is making sexual advances towards me. He's making sexual advances. And we're like, nah, hang in there. Sometimes people do this, do that. But when it gets a bit now risky and dangerous, we have to intervene and pull you out. Oh my God. It got risky. It got dangerous. Because apparently madam went away on some cruise ship thing with the girls. You know, I'm going out with the girls for a girls' weekend. We're going to Mozambique and in. And this domestic worker is left alone there with the children. The domestic worker is staying in the cottage outside. And the bus came now. The bus came there, half nude, knocked on the door and so forth and so on. Now, this domestic worker, because for the past 2 months, was aware of these advances. She made sure that she has 2 phones. The one phone she just put there in case things like this happen, so she put the camera on, which I think is an advice that she took from the boyfriend, from her boyfriend. And she had her own phone where she was recording everything that was happening in terms of voice. So this guy now came aggressively because he's been advancing and touching auntie's bums and boobs while auntie is working when madam is not there. And now auntie, now the kids are sleeping, and this one knows that now the kids are sleeping, they're not going to wake up, goes to the back, to the cottage where auntie is staying, knocks there aggressively and says, this is my house. So therefore, for it's my house, it gives me the right to screw whoever I want to screw in my house. And it became that dangerous. And the boss ended up saying, listen, I'm going to go to the house and get condoms. When I come back, you must open this door. I'm going to break it. Now, auntie's recording these voice things, right, at that moment. And now this boss goes to the house, get the condoms. Auntie gets out of there, locks the door, runs, hides herself somewhere in the dog's house or something. But she says she slept with the dog and the cats and whatever. And now the employer, the male employer now is looking for auntie, is not finding auntie, shame, gives up, perhaps takes a cold shower, I don't know. But in the morning first thing, we get voice notes and footage of what this guy was doing and everything, and the aggressiveness of basically wanting to rape the domestic worker. And what had happened is that we literally had to immediately just step in and call the police to get the police to release the auntie from there. The police went in, thank God for SAPS. They went in very early in the morning and they said, we are here to get this person. Because remember, these nice houses in the suburbs, we love them, we stay in them, but they are very much secured. So if you don't want anyone to get out of your house, there is a possibility that you won't give them the code to the keys, you won't open for them and whatever. It's high security places. So the police had to go there to release auntie. Auntie got out and auntie came with all the proofs. Now, to the point I'm making, madam comes back from the vacation with the girls and she says, oh, this agency is so useless, they got me someone this, they got that, and she threatens us. She tells us she's going to take legal action. If anything, she's going to paste us all over this sites where you complain, like Bobo, Hello Peter and all that. So she says, I'm going to paste your name there, I'm going to make sure the world knows how useless you are. Now listen, bo madam and libo aunt, we are not in the business of breaking marriages. So, and as a potential employer, when you look at these reviews, please think and think hard. So this madam indeed went and pasted our names all over. And I'm sure there's other agencies that are pasted all over. These are domestic workers agencies that are not funded, that are not supported, that cannot fight at the level of someone who drives a Mercedes G-Wagon, right? So they just keep quiet. And in this instance, we had to keep quiet and not release the footage or the voice recordings of what actually was happening. We had to respect that marriage. We had to respect whatever the relationship that they had, and we kept quiet. Now, when you go and read these reviews about black small businesses that do not have support, that are surviving on their own, that are out there hustling, pushing, trying not only to survive, but only to impact on the lives of others in communities, in rural areas, in townships, where they are looking at women that have no jobs. And now you are fighting because you are driving a G-Wagon and whatever the case may be. This small business is not going to retaliate. This small business is not going to respond. In that instant, madam, there was no way that we could come out and say, oh, you are doing this to us. Let's also show you where our culture as a company and what we believe in is not toxicity and negativity. We're not going to fight you at your level. We just keep quiet. But I'm saying to those who are reading these reviews, sometimes when you read these reviews and these reviews has no answer, ask yourself that this company that is being bashed, why are they keeping quiet? Thank you so much, Bo Madam. Thank you so much, Bo Auntie.